Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Hello and welcome to the Saudi House Pavilion here at the World Economic Forum annual meeting. This pavilion marks a significant expansion of the kingdom's long-standing presence and participation at Davos, showcasing Saudi Arabia's commitment to fostering global innovation and collaborations. My name is Ahmed Dakhil. I'm a Saudi journalist and TV presenter, and it's my great pleasure to be here moderating this exciting session, just thinking about how the aviation industry can drive progress across sectors, enhance global mobility, and support a connected, resilient, and inclusive future for all. We're privileged to have a distinguished panel of experts with us who will share their perspectives on the role of aviation in addressing global challenges and harnessing unlocked opportunities in this dynamic sector. Please join me in welcoming my esteemed panelists, Mr. Ali Rajab, GACA Executive Vice President of Air Transport and International Corporation, and Mr. Adam Goldstein Archer, Aviation Founder and CEO, Dr. Basma Al-Bhiran, Center for the Fourth Industrial Revolution, Saudi Arabia Managing Partner, and Mr. Lucian Boldia, President and CEO, Industrial Automation, Honeywell. Hello and welcome all. I will start this panel discussion directing a question to Mr. Ali Rajab. First of all, Mr. Ali, under Saudi Arabia's Vision 2030, the aviation sector has experienced unprecedented growth, becoming really a pivotal driver of economic transformation. Could you elaborate on how GACA is harnessing this momentum to position aviation as a catalyst for the kingdom's ambitious goals? Here we're talking about tourism, trade, and infrastructure development. The mic to you.
Thank you, Wiam, for this question. I'm happy to be among my colleagues, panelists here. When it comes to Vision 2030, and when we are talking about aviation, I think it's very important to talk about the Saudi National Aviation Strategy, a strategy that started from Vision 2030, aligned with other industries and ministers' strategies, such as tourism strategies, and also been taking into consideration the giga projects that we see in the kingdom today. A strategy that will put Saudi Arabia, in terms of aviation, back to #1 on the region, will put Saudi Arabia #5 globally by 2030. The strategy focuses to connect Saudi Arabia to 250 destinations, concentrate to triple the number of passengers and cargo. And when we talk about the strategy, it's important to talk how we are going to deliver this, how we are going to implement this. The first thing we did at GACA is separated GACA from the operational role. So we stayed back and act as a regulator, fully regulator, established airports, holding companies under airport holding companies, Riyadh Airport Company, JITCO or Jeddah Company, and then Dammam Company, Cluster 2, which is under Cluster 2 around 23 airports. And then for the airlines, we put 2 hubs in Saudi Arabia, one in Jeddah, and have Saudi to focus their operation in Jeddah, and then Riyadh Air to be hubbed in Riyadh. A massive work has been done since we established this strategy, including a massive order of fleets for our national carriers. Today, we have around 245 approximately, and we're planning to increase that number to reach around 750 or 80 by 2034. And then you need to focus on other things such as expanding the airport, building capacity, etc. I think there is a dedicated panel going to be in a couple of hours, and my colleagues, Vice President for Strategy and Intelligence, He will elaborate more on that. And also we have my colleagues at the GACA booth here around the corner to give more information about that.
Yeah, it's worth mentioning that at 2 p.m. we're going to kick off that session, and it's an invitation for all of you to be with us. Now, shifting our focus to the global stage, Mr. Boldia, Honeywell Global operates across huge global industries. We're talking about energy, healthcare, manufacturing, and retail. How does aerospace fit within Honeywell's bigger, broader business strategy on a global scale?
So if you think about Honeywell's external reporting structure, we have 4 divisions. Aerospace is the largest division in the company. Second largest is industrial automation. Third largest, building automation. These 3 actually come together and share technology horizontals that go across. So really, the single largest vertical for us is aerospace, but it's very much linked to our other automation businesses, because very much if you think of a flight control system, if you think of avionics, it's not that dissimilar technology from what you use in other autonomous applications or other automated tasks that get carried out by a skilled worker. So this is very strategic for us. It's, as you alluded, we're a global company. We operate in every corner of the world. But look, first of all, I want to really thank GACA for hosting this. I want to thank you for the opportunity for being here, more importantly. And I want to tell you why, to me personally, it's special to be here. Because, we've done this transforming an aviation industry in other environments before, and we continue to evolve. But rarely, never in my lifetime at least, do you have the conditions where it's kind of the perfect combination, where you have government, you have the regulators, and you have private sector coming together to one roadmap, to one objective, to one transformation, with a clear vision, a clear milestone, and a clear willingness to remove the barriers, remove the hurdles, and get work done. And to be able to be a partner in that, I can tell you, to show our commitment. We have 700 people in Kingdom right now, more than 50% Saudi nationals, 25% Saudi women. We're very committed to this. We're committed in all 4 businesses. And for aviation, actually, 2 of the 4 play a very big role. Industrial automation obviously plays a huge role in the Saudi energy sector. But our smart buildings, airports are buildings. So all major airports basically in country are connected. They use Honeywell technology. So we collaborate on the airport side, we collaborate on the plane. And so we're really thrilled to be part of this journey with you. It's really an honor, and I look forward to what lies ahead.
The honor is ours also. And it's great. Are you optimistic for what's coming next? This is just what's happening now. Are you optimistic?
Well, I hope you see the big smile on my face. And the answer is absolutely yes.
And you're spreading great energy and enthusiasm, much needed to kick off this session. Well, from corporate strategies to technological frontiers, Dr. Basma, can you tell us more about the Center for the Fourth Industrial Revolution and its specific focus on aviation?
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure and honor to be here with you all this morning. So the Center for Fourth Industrial Revolution, Saudi Arabia, is hosted at King Abdulaziz City for Science and Technology. It was launched back in 2019. And this center is part of the Network for Fourth Industrial Revolution at the World Economic Forum. So essentially, we are a World Economic Forum affiliate center. And we're dedicated to harnessing the adoption of emerging technologies to drive both societal and economic progress. And so we accelerate innovation through agile governance and public-private partnerships. And so the center essentially operates as a think tank and a do tank, whereby we translate strategies into actions. And we do this through 3 different mechanisms. So the first mechanism, or first objective, is around providing insights and recommendations that would inform the development of governance frameworks and protocols. And we do this in conjunction with our stakeholders. So our second objective is to engage diverse stakeholders. And diverse stakeholders includes government, industry, academic and research organizations, and also civic society. And our third objective is to enhance national capabilities by making sure that we foster 4IR governance, expertise in 4IR governance and technologies. And so through the center, we are able to develop thought leadership through different workshops, surveys, events that we host. And the different thought leadership pieces that the center the center develops is done in conjunction, in collaboration with our stakeholders. So even when we talk about providing insights, when we share those insights to our stakeholders, we collaboratively focus on a joint sort of effort that is aligned and streamlined with the national priorities of Saudi Vision 2030. So that's about the center. Now, in terms of Aviate, Aviate is an initiative by the World Economic Forum, and it is part of the Center for the Fourth Industrial Revolution. And the Aviate initiative essentially focuses on promoting safe, sustainable, and equitable adoption of advanced air mobility, AAM, and automotive aviation. So, and the Aviate initiative is actually part of a much broader effort that the World Economic Forum is working on that focuses on emerging mobility technologies through fostering public-private collaborations. And through these public-private collaborations, they address technological, societal, and regulatory challenges as well. And by addressing these different challenges, so they look at things from 3 different dimensions, this will help in reshaping air travel, urban transport, and logistics. And so there are key focus areas for the Aviate initiative. The first focus area is around understanding the impact of AAM and autonomous aviation. The second objective is around identifying use cases and best practices to maximize the benefits and mitigate potential risks. And the third objective is to facilitate the global deployment of advanced air mobility through the C4IR network. Now that brings me to Aviate Saudi Arabia.
Yes.
So Aviate Saudi Arabia, the project that we've launched at the center, is very much aligned with the World Economic Forum's Aviate initiative, right? And we are part of the Aviate community as well within that initiative. So this project is basically a collective effort that's brought together, again, multi-stakeholders and primarily government and industry. And you're going to hear me say a lot about multi-stakeholders and collaboration because that is fundamental to what we're doing. And so bringing together these stakeholders, we are able to share global insights that we bring from the global WEF Aviate initiative. And we also share local insights that are generated from our community to the global community. And I'll give you one example. My colleague Prue, who leads C4IR India, who's with us today, they have made significant strides in C4IR India in relation to autonomous aviation, and they have a program called Medicine in the Sky. So we have taken learnings from them. We've exchanged, and we're exchanging learnings right now, where we are learning from them and they are learning from us, right? And this is the power of the C4IR network, because we're able to amplify what we do in KSA, and they are able to amplify what they're doing in India, right? So dual purpose. It's a two-way
knowledge transfer.
Two-way knowledge. So there's reciprocity. So going back to our project, so we have 2 basic objectives. One is to foster collaboration amongst multi-stakeholders, and the other one is to develop actionable pathways for AAM adoption through pilot programs and real-world use cases. So the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia has already established or cultivated a dynamic ecosystem to advance Fourth Industrial Revolution through regulatory sandboxes and designated air corridors, which are very important to do pilots and identify use cases. And so these environments will also help us in fostering innovation and working with industry, and also in particular with startups. I'll pause there for now because I'm just conscious of time.
No worries. You have all the time, but you really gave us the right overview for what the center does and the specific focus on aviation. As we delve deeper into technological innovations, how does Archer Aviation see aviation technologies driving growth and enhancing living standards? And here we're talking about one of the key topics of WEF Davos.
Well, thank you very much for having me here, and thank you to my fellow panelists as well. So Archer is building electric air taxis, and it's a clean, sustainable new form of transportation that can bring, short-haul trips to the masses, and that's ultimately the goal. But in order to make that dream come true, you need a lot of things to happen, a lot of things to really go right. And so Archer, in a way, represents the movement of young people that want to see technological change, where I think the top 5 most talked about companies on Reddit, as an example. And so people follow the story. And so in order for us to be able to do these things and bring these changes, we need support, and we need to find an audience that is interested in what we're doing. And so when we started working and coming, to the kingdom, it was a place that was unknown, and I think it's unknown to most American companies, but was incredibly welcoming and very forward-thinking. And so when I met with Gaka, I met with Captain Sullivan, many times, and he said, how do we help you do this, and how do we help bring these types of solutions, to the kingdom? And it was a pretty unbelievable experience for a new company who's usually met with, I'll call it resistance everywhere.
Yeah.
And so we became almost like an advertisement to other American companies in Silicon Valley that are interested in finding places to deploy their technology. And so I get calls all the time. All the time from founders of big companies in Silicon Valley that say, how are you guys doing that? What's your experience like? And, talk to me about, going to, KSA and who should I meet with? And so we've almost become like this advertisement for how new technology companies can be successful in finding, to work in the kingdom, and especially as to go and launch on projects. So the end result, I think, will be a product that can bring a solution to, a more equal solution versus like what helicopters have given in the past, which is typically reserved for the very few, a much more equitable solution, a safer solution, more greener solution. But it's thanks to organizations like GACA, the support of PIF, the support of the entire community in the kingdom, Riyadh Air, Saudia. It's truly NEOM, Red Sea. There is a entire community that's trying to make this happen, and therefore, as I'll call it a startup company, even though we're a public company, I still view us as a startup company. Extremely grateful for that opportunity, and I always encourage more companies to come because we can create the progress that we all want, and the kingdom offers that opportunity that is very unique. It's a unique thing in the world.
You mentioned advertisement opportunity. Let me take you back to the Future Aviation Forum last edition. I remember Archer's Midnight really stole the spotlight. Now, my question to you, when can we actually see Archer Aviation operating in Saudi Arabia and going beyond?
Well, it first starts with identifying a set of rules where we can, we can make it very clear of what safety means. And so the FAA has done a very good job of laying that out. And then we've been working now with GACA to study those rules and make sure there's agreement of a pathway to doing that. And so that is progressing. We've had great conversations there, and I'm very confident that we'll find that path there. The second thing we need to do is find, I'll call it more of a testing type of environment where we can start to showcase, these aircraft. And so there's again been, a very warm reception, whether it's from, NEOM or Red Sea or a bunch of the other projects that I think will garner a lot of attention and further help promote new technologies, and again, new technologies coming into these incredible new projects. And so that's what we're on the path of doing right now. And so I think in 2025, we will be able to set clear roadmap into how to bring that, how to bring the aircraft to commercial applications in the kingdom. And I'm hopeful that will be as early as 2026. I think there's a real path to do that. And of course, we will do that in a very safe way. But I think also in a way that shows this is an incredible place to come launch new technologies.
Amazing. We're looking forward to that time where we see Archer Aviation operating in Saudi and going beyond that. This will lead me to a question to all of you, my esteemed panelists. Nowadays, what is actually the biggest challenge and the biggest opportunity as well for the aviation sector? To you, Mr. Ali Rajab.
A simple answer for this question is the gap between supply and demand.
That's for the challenge.
The challenge. If we look at the aviation travel propensity historically, in 1980, there were five people from the entire globe for each passenger flights. In 1990, there were 4 people for each flight. In 2024, there were 2 people for each flight. And according to IATA forecast, we will have around 8 billion travelers in the next 20 years.
Wow.
If you keep that in mind, look what's happening within the supply arena today. We have around 15 order backlog still to be delivered by Boeing and Airbus. If we look at the manufacture today, every year around 1,100 aircraft. So we need 15 years to cover or to deliver that orders. That's gap number 1. Gap number 2 would be the diversity in terms of regulation, in terms of knowledge, in terms of human capacity between developed countries and undeveloped countries, especially if we are seeing now the advanced technology, the advanced air mobility that we are working with different companies, and Dr. Basma talked about it. We need to make sure no country left behind, and that's what Saudi Arabia is doing with the ICAO to make sure at least no country left behind. That's in terms of challenges, and that gives opportunity for the public sectors to pick up this for innovation, for technology, to do more research and development within between government and private sector as well.
All right, Mr. Adam Goldstein, to you. Here we're talking about the biggest challenge and the biggest opportunity as well.
I think the biggest opportunity, I'll always start from a point of optimism. I think the biggest opportunity is the entire aviation industry has not advanced very much. I mean, if we just look back, 1903, you have the Wright Flyer. 1964, you have the first Boeing 737-100, 60 years from like a wooden kite to a Boeing 737. 60 years later, the 737 MAX, you still have a tube and wing that's largely more fuel efficient and safer, which is great, but it's incremental. It's not revolutionary. We haven't seen much really happen. And I think there's an opportunity, and there's a willingness, and there's now an entire ecosystem that wants to bring change. And so the opportunity here is almost, you can't even imagine it. I mean, we all saw what Elon Musk did in space.
Yes.
And, the opportunity in aviation is incredible. It's not even just the aircraft itself. The entire ecosystem is fairly manual and all needs to be digitized. And so it's not saying that people won't have jobs. I think they will just be different jobs. And so I think a lot of things will be automated. I think we can add a whole nother layer of safety by doing it. There's a lot of decisions humans should not be making. How about if when Uber started, Uber did not go and hire a bunch of dispatchers to go launch. caps. They automated everything. And so as we look to launch air taxis, the obvious thing to do is go work with air traffic control, right? That's how the system works. But the question is, if you want to scale to 1 million aircraft, you can't do that. And so how do you start to work to change that? So that's the opportunity. It truly is endless, and there's an entire ecosystem to do that. And again, I think it is so smart of the entire, Middle East region that it's so leaned in to this change that a lot of companies will be born and will, flourish. And as a result, bring jobs and new economy and real GDP growth. So that's the opportunity. I think the other thing you're seeing in the U.S., the new administration that came in is very forward-leaning and wants this change too, and wants to stop doing things the old way. And so we've had a lot of very positive interactions in the U.S. with change across aviation. So I do think there's lots of opportunity. Of course, the challenge is it is a very big network, and there's lots of existing things. You can't just replace an old system with a new system. And so the question is how you do it. And how do you do it in a period of time that's relevant? And so, like, you might talk about hydrogen. It's very interesting. It's just not economical yet. And is it 20 or 50 years? It's really hard to know where we are in that cycle, even though we think there's so many great things that can come from that. So I think the question is, how do we implement these change? How much time will it take? And how do we fight through a very well-established system that exists today that frankly works? But the question is, it's not, I think, the future world that we all want to build. So I'm in the business of building future worlds. When I see all the pictures of the giga projects that are being worked on in Saudi, it's unbelievably inspirational. And so that's why I'm hopeful we can help to build the entire new aviation system, hopefully, in Saudi, and help spread to the rest of the world.
Hopefully. Looking forward to that. Dr. Basma?
So I think we need to strengthen collaboration for an inclusive and resilient future. So challenges are always opportunities, right? And I think we always need to be positive and have an optimistic outlook when we do mention challenges. So the biggest challenge I'd like to mention is the vertical segregation of airspace and regulatory frameworks. So traditional aviation and even advanced air mobility and drones tend to operate in silos, and there's very fragmented regulations and systems that actually hinder safe and efficient integration. And so the opportunity here is fostering collaboration. And when we foster collaboration, we're going to be able to harmonize regulatory frameworks and airspace management. And so when we leverage technologies like artificial intelligence or Internet of Things, they can modernize systems, and they can also reduce segregation. And in addition, we would be creating a unified data-driven framework approach.
Well, fostering collaboration is actually the core of the Fourth Industrial Revolution Center. To you, Mr. Boldia, biggest challenge, biggest opportunity.
Yeah, so I want to build without
upon.
repeating on what some of my panelists have said. So first of all, I'm starting from a very optimistic point of view as well with Mr. Goldstein, because, and I'll tell you why I'm so optimistic. I think we agree on a few things. We agree on what the problem is. We agree we have a supply-demand problem. But the supply-demand doesn't limit itself to we can't get enough bearings to build enough turbines, to build enough aircraft and deliver them on time. It goes deeper than that. We can't staff enough cockpits. We can't staff enough air traffic controllers. So there's a whole ecosystem that we have to train, we have to bring up to speed, we have to build. So that's one side. That's a challenge that we have to address. The other supply-demand challenge that we have to address is energy itself. The world is evolving, is consuming more and more energy, and what that means is we need more forms of energy. We need different forms of energy so that we can have more of it. It's not that we need to replace one form with another. It's kind of the world of and. So that's a different part. Now, aircraft is a unique beast because it's a global problem that you have to solve. The aircraft that takes off at LAX and lands in Riyadh has to use the same fuel at both ends. It cannot change midair from a Jet A engine to a hydrogen engine. And then the Jet A or the SAF that it gets at one end or the other have to be fully interchangeable, fully transparent, the same performance. So there's that side of it, the decarbonization side that has to be done. But here's why the smile on my face, because name to me the problem, and there will be somebody, if not in this room, somewhere that will tell you there is a solution to it. We have all the technology today. So if I ask you what will it take that we don't know today to achieve this 26 vision, I would guess you would say we don't have to invent something new. We have it. So can we get out of our own way? Can we all get together as a society, and can we solve these problems? And I think we have no choice but to solve them, because the demand is there, the technology is there, the willingness is there, and especially in Kingdom, you've got the entire infrastructure, soup to nuts, sitting here ready to help, saying, where else do you go? And the government's lining up there saying, here's the private investment fund, here's the regulators, we are here to get out of your way, to pull you to go faster than maybe you thought you can go. That's unique. We have the technology, so it's a matter of getting it done, and I think we're at a point now where we've walked around the problem 18 times and studied it. We have all the solutions. Now it's time to just pick it up and do it.
Absolutely.
And I think we're right there. I think we're right there of actually doing it. And I think we all are blessed to live at a very unique time, because the next 10 years will be a very exciting time for transforming aviation in a way that, I think we can imagine it, but it will be maybe to some extent beyond. As he said, we've made incremental progress. We flew airplanes with 5 people in the cockpit. We're down to 2. We're not going to be able to find 2 forever. If you listen to ITA, if you listen to others, we're going to be short tens of thousands of pilots in the next 10 years. So do you need 2? Do you have AI? Do you have a co-pilot? And that technology all exists. We're not probably ready as citizens to think we're going to get into an autonomous plane immediately, but the technology is there, the safety element of it is there, and I think the behavior change and the adoption will come faster than we might think today. So that's why I'm so excited.
Yeah, and I'm loving this. You make us see it from a very optimistic perspective. Maybe when you think about the future in such a dynamic sector, you would always think about challenges in general, overpassing the possibilities. But you're making a very dynamic balance here that gives a very optimistic view to what's coming next.
It's hard to put this toothpaste back in the tube, as they say, where, we live in a global, very connected world today. And, the pandemic kind of prevented us from traveling for a short period of time. And that made really billions of people realize how special that is. And once that was over, where did we go all first? To the airport, to travel, to connect as a society. And that's going to continue. That demand continues. And if that demand continues, it creates pressure on industry, it creates pressure on regulators to really enable that transformation. And so to me, it's not only economics, it's just what society expects from all of us. And we started this panel with aviation transforming society. It absolutely does. It connects people. It creates exchanges of idea, of information. Again, it's a system that today is pretty manual, that can be automated. The airport experience can be very different from what it is today. It doesn't have to be the way it is today. And the technology exists. So it's just bringing it together and taking something that everybody wants to do and making it better.
True that. Mr. Adam Goldstein, he said the demand continues. Now, the energy transition is a crucial focus here. What does it take for just inclusive energy transition mean for aviation?
Well, I think there are some solutions that are ready today, and then there's new solutions that will have to be, figured out. So in the electric air taxi space, we use lithium-ion cells that are off the shelf.
Yeah.
And thanks to the EV industry, they've been able to build up a huge amount of manufacturing capacity and a ton of test data that shows all this is safe and can be used at scale. And so those solutions are ready today. And, we have a battery factory in Silicon Valley that can produce up to 15,000 packs per year. And we're a relatively small company. And so that's all, possible. I think the challenges are things like SAF fuels, I think, are very challenging. They're very expensive. They're typically 3x the cost of what you would, pay otherwise. And I think that's very hard to convince the masses to use. And even if it did make sense, if you want to start reaching goals, you have to dramatically scale production of SAF fuels. Nobody's really doing it. There's very few, producers right now of SAF fuels. And then you look at the next generation is hydrogen. And again, how far away is that? And it's somewhere between 10 and 50 years, depending on who you ask. And so what I think needs to happen is there are new companies that will be built and create new things and new opportunities. And these solutions are not obvious today of what those things will be. But as companies like Archer get bigger, we'll have opportunities to go big, to go build a new, larger aircraft. And so, again, why are we building tube and wing planes still, 60 years later? Why aren't we building blended wing or new, really different types of experiences? And I think the new companies will come and do that, but I think we need new solutions from what we have today. I don't think there are good enough solutions today that can solve any of the sustainability problems in aviation.
That's very interesting. Maybe we'll tackle that later on. But I have to go back to Mr. Ali Rajab, touching on collaboration and how it's really essential in addressing the global challenges you have just mentioned. Now, how is GACA working with international partners to tackle issues like sustainability, digital transformation, and workforce development, ensuring that Saudi Arabia remains at the forefront of these critical areas?
The Saudi Arabia being a member on the second level of the ICAO Council and being very active and proactive in all topics that is discussed within ICAO table. Also, GACA today, or the Kingdom today, is shared the Arab Civil Aviation Council, headed by His Excellency President of GACA, where we have 5 committees to discuss digital, building human capital, and energy. And also we have hosted 4 major events just last year in Saudi Arabia. Future Aviation Forum, which attended by around 10,000 people, around $20 billion deal of MOUs and agreements that were signed during the forum. Around 300 speakers attended that forum. We also held the first security Arab Forum. We have also held the first ever facilitation summit along with ICAO. And also, not just events, we also host a major organization in Saudi Arabia. We host the ACI, or the International Airport Council, in Riyadh. We host the Regional Safety Oversight Office in the region, which is under the ICAO office. And also we host the Security Middle East Office in Saudi Arabia. I think that would draw an idea how Saudi Arabia is leading in aviation, whether that in the region or globally.
All right, Dr. Basma, just, to go back to what Mr. Goldstein mentioned, and here we want to talk about what's really reshaping all sectors and industries. We're talking about the 4th industrial revolution, including aviation. It's reshaping the global industries. Now, how can emerging technologies such as AI, Internet of Things, supercharge the sector's role in global progress and sparking innovation?
So emerging techs like AI and IoT are critical to enhancing efficiency, sustainability, and global connectivity. And I'll share with you some examples, but before I do so, I'd like to say that these technologies would enable aviation would enable us to streamline operations in aviation, to drive innovation across the sector, and to also improve decision making.
Okay.
So if we take, for example, AI, where AI can drive operational efficiency. Mm-hmm. So AI can provide predictive maintenance whereby it can reduce delays and also enhance safety, while the real-time optimization improves fuel efficiency and also cuts down on emissions. IoT can drive smart aviation ecosystems. So IoT-enabled smart airports, cargo tracking, and aircraft monitoring. They enhance not only logistics, but also passenger experience and also operational resiliency. Now, when you combine AI and IoT, we move into driving sustainable aviation technologies. And so combining them both together, we can monitor emissions, right? Because we need to, the aviation industry is also very conscious of climate issues. And AI and IoT can also facilitate carbon tracking. So those are just a few examples of how AI and IoT are critical to the aviation industry as we move forward and we progress.
Interesting. Now to you, Mr. Boldia, talking about Honeywell's global business aviation outlook. Now, the outlook predicts that $280 billion will be invested in the delivery of 8,500 business jets between 2024 to 2034. What is driving this demand, and how is Honeywell positioning itself to meet this evolving demands growing in this dynamic sector?
Yeah, look, I think a couple of things. So one, what's driving this demand? It's a combination of things. I think it's the age of the fleet that we have today drives that modernization. And then I think in addition to that, it's the behavior change in the consumer that I alluded to earlier. I think the pandemic was a light switch where we all kind of understood the value of freedom and of being able to interact with one another globally. I think that also the emergence of more people who can afford it, the emergence of more of a desire to be able to use a private jet. I think the commercial aviation, frankly, has its inconveniences, the way the airport is designed. So you have more private jets because of that as well, that people prefer that. So overall, I think there's just a growth in demand that all those factors bring together. But I think if you look at that, that only increases what several of the panelists talked about, the need. We touched on sustainable aviation fuels. So Honeywell, for example, has licensed 50 SAF licenses to 50 new SAF producers that are doing that. Now, yes, it is more expensive, but most new technologies, when they first get adopted, that's the cost curve that eventually you start climbing down. But I think what's exciting is the solutions will fork. The plane that flies 16 hours nonstop, probably for the foreseeable future, will fly on some form of jet fuel, whether it's the conventional one or whether it's the sustainable equivalent, a SAF, that's a little more expensive. Either way, it's going to use that. Short-haul transportation can use alternate forms of energy. So I think we will have those systems come together. But I think AI is also very exciting, because if you step back at a very high level, if you own anything that has a lot of capital, and whether it's a refinery, whether it's an airplane, or whether it's a power plant, you're going to want the same three things, actually. You're going to want it to give you as much output as possible for as little input as possible. So for an aircraft, that means you want it to be as energy efficient as possible. You want it to be available for operation most of the time, in other words, reliable. And then you want to have the users be able to make the best decisions possible. And AI improves all three of those things. You can make the equipment more reliable, or the airport more efficient. You can make it more reliable with predictive models, with predictive maintenance that are reactive. And you can train the pilot faster, make the pilot more efficient, help them with AI to make fewer mistakes, to be able to make better decisions. So all that comes together to where, yes, this demand growth is there, but I think there will also be an element of using what we have more efficiently, of being able to extend the life of what we have. And then back to the supply chain issue. We have to address that. I know Honeywell is spending a lot of time addressing it, but it is an entire ecosystem end-to-end that has to be addressed. One producer addressing their problem only exposes the next bottleneck. And it's usually their suppliers, then it's upstream for them. So addressing all that at once is going to be important. But, any time in history, that's the beautiful thing about capital. Capital is available, and if there is a persistent demand, it usually gets addressed. And this will be one of those that, as an industry, we'll have to address. Did we all see it coming in time? Probably not. But
we're
now
staying optimistic.
Yeah, but now that it's here, we've got to deal with it, and we are.
Okay. Well, we still have 5 more minutes to conclude. I would like to pass a question to you, my esteemed panelists. Can you share with us your bold predictions for aviation sector in the next 5 years? Starting with you, Mr. Ali Rajab.
I think too much of what has been said, connection is the way forward. When you connect more, that means more prosperity to the economy and more prosperity to the people. Saudi Arabia stands today with 172 international destination. Used to be in 2019 around 99 destination. Around 95 airlines used to operate to Saudi Arabia, and last year around 142 airlines. So again, connectivity. I used to be said by President of GACA.
To you, Mr. Adam Goldstein.
There are too many choke points in scaling aviation that will limit or put a ceiling on what's possible, whether it's the number of aircraft you can build, the number of pilots, the supply chain, there's endless stuff. The key to it all is software. It's just software and automation, and everything has to be. Aviation is so far behind in modernizing from a software perspective, and I think that's all about to change. I think there is a very big push to do it. I hope to be a part of that push, with our church and my company, and I hope to encourage a lot of other new companies to come in and help automate. And I think software will be the thing everybody's talking about 5 years from now, and they can't believe how we had used to do it so manually 5 years ago.
Amazing. Dr. Basma?
So, when I was a child, I used to watch a cartoon called The Jetsons. Probably not many of you might be familiar with The Jetsons. Some of you may be. Some of you are too young. You weren't born at that time. So anyhow, I was in awe when I used to watch The Jetsons because it was flying cars, right? And people lived in houses in the air, in the sky. And I was also mesmerized at the same time. And I was just a child. I was probably... I'm not going to tell you my age, but anyhow, I was thinking, when is this going to happen? Is this going to happen during my lifetime? Are we going to see these advanced technological breakthroughs, happening? And I have to say, we are actually living it to a certain degree with the eVTOLs that we've been seeing develop and the bold steps that we've been taking globally, but also within the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. So I think my bold prediction for the next 5 years is in relation to the deployment of advanced air mobility, and where traffic management will also be empowered by artificial intelligence, obviously making sure that safety and regulations are robust and are in place.
Amazing.
Geez, can we high five that one?
Oh, yes. Yeah. Definitely. To you, Mr. Boldia.
Yeah. So, look, I have the word automation in my job title, so I can't possibly disagree with Mr. Goldstein here. And I agree with him fully. It's going to be the software. It's going to be the automation. It's going to be that transition to autonomous. I don't want to scare anybody. There'll still be a person in the cockpit, but I think the transition, the information that they will have, what will be available, and that's not just in the cockpit. That's in air traffic control. That's on runway safety. That's in the airport itself. I think that we're underestimating the impact on that, and that as he said, there are barriers to adopting that, but the barriers are not that we haven't invented the technology. The barriers are just let's agree on the safeguards, let's put them in place, and then let's go do it, because the technology is mostly there, and what's not fully there just needs to be tweaked for the application. But I think that future, the 5-year future is bright, but I think the 10-15 is even brighter. This is not an industry that moves in 30-day increments, but on this kind of time horizon, I think it's great. And I think, again, can't put the toothpaste back in the tube, and the societal impact to everything. You don't want to get too philosophical, but this contributes actually to a peaceful world. People who meet each other, who interact with each other, who learn about each other, form bonds, form relationships. That's how the world gets to be a better place. So, that's on a more philosophical note, maybe to end this, but that's also exciting.
That's a great ending for our panel discussion. Thank you, my esteemed panelists, for this session where you highlighted the immense potential of the aviation industry to drive global progress, foster innovation, and enhance connectivity. And the Saudi House Pavilion reflects how Saudi Arabia's commitment to being at the forefront of global progress, as we look forward to continued collaboration and innovation, building a more connected, resilient, and inclusive future for all. Thank you so much, and please a big round of applause to my esteemed panelists. Thank you. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.